Hey, I just thought I'd make another one of these informal videos. The last one actually did pretty good. Seemed like it had as much interest as my production videos, maybe a little bit more than the last two. But I gotta admit to myself that I have a pretty small sample size, so I don't know if that really means anything. And I figure if people don't want to watch it, they don't have to, right? So maybe I'll just put it out there. I did add a pop filter, or actually a windscreen to this sticky microphone, because the sound was pretty good, except, boy, those plosives were really something. When I listened back, it definitely shook my eardrums a little bit. But I almost always have something on my mind, so I thought I would do some of these. Don't worry, I can keep doing like one production video a week, and then one of these, like, I'll call it Sunday rambling videos or something every week. So maybe it'll work out. I don't know. We'll give it a try. Doesn't hurt, right? So what I wanted to talk about today is that the Snyder Cut of Justice League is coming up on HBO Max in like 4 days from now. Record these on Sundays, and it's coming out Thursday. And I just wanted to kind of process my thoughts out loud about that, because I've had a real journey with that movie, I guess. I haven't even seen it yet, and I already feel like I've had a real journey with that movie. When people first started asking for the Snyder Cut, my response was initially negative. And I'm not real sure why my knee-jerk was to be negative about that. Maybe I felt like it was a waste of time and money for something that had already been done. But then I had to remind myself, it's not my time and it's not my money. So why should I really care? Just like I said at the beginning about this, if I don't want to watch it, I don't have to. Nobody does. And I think maybe I was kind of swept up in just sort of some general negativity in some social circles I was in or whatever, and didn't really give it a fair shake. Sometimes it's hard to deal with relativity and to see the big picture. It seems like we are judging some of the DCEU stuff in its value relative to other things going on concurrently. And I do understand competition for your time and money. That's how you have to make decisions. I mean, that's why our minds work the way they do. Not all of us have the abundance of either time and or money to just see everything regardless of what's better or worse. You know, sometimes you got two things in the house to eat and you have to pick which one you want and which one you don't. Sometimes it's actually easier if you only got one thing in the house to eat. Then you don't have to decide. You're just wait till you get hungry enough to eat it, whatever it is. And with comic book movies, superhero movies, I did, live through a stretch where we were hungry enough to eat whatever we were given. I can honestly say I went to see Steel starring Shaquille O'Neal in the theaters, and I actually liked it. I mean, I was excited both before and after the movie. And going back and watching it now, it's not something I really enjoy very much. In fact, I probably wouldn't watch it unless there was a strong reason I had to. But, that's where that relativity comes into play. And I also didn't really dislike Justice League in its initial form, but I also didn't love it so much that I think it's a sin to change it or to add to it. So I just have these feelings about it that I don't really even understand so much myself, particularly that original negative knee-jerk reaction. But there were a lot of people who wanted to see this. I mean, it didn't just get made out of hubris. It didn't just get made out of some weird, bizarre kind of decision that we're going to do it no matter what. There were people that asked for it. There was a movement to release it, to get it, well, it wasn't really there to be released, but to get it made and put together. So there are people that wanted it, so I shouldn't begrudge them getting the thing they wanted. I wouldn't want people to begrudge me if I get what I want. I think I've done a lot better sometimes than others, but I try to remind myself that just because I don't like something doesn't necessarily mean it isn't good. Once again, good is a relative thing, an individual thing. Some people like different things than other people. And also, just because I don't like something doesn't mean that there's not merit to it. Sometimes new ground is broken, new things are discovered, new concepts are introduced that can be built on later to make something good. But as far as my own anticipation, I went from initially being negative, like I said, and I guess the reason I was negative is I thought, man, I don't really like Zack Snyder that much. But I don't know why I say that. I mean, yeah, he's got good movies, he's got bad movies, like a lot of people that make movies. But when I think about it, I really like 300. And I like the Watchmen movie more than I think the public consensus is on that movie. I went and saw it in the theaters, like day of release. It was like a birthday treat to myself. And I enjoyed it. I mean, I absolutely enjoyed it. I didn't mind the changes. When I see other people start to really tear it down and break it down, I can see where they're coming from and maybe think that I'm not enjoying it as much. But when I go back and watch it, I still like it. And you know, I totally get it if you don't. I can see where you're coming from. But I like it. Like I said, I like 300. Man of Steel, it didn't bother me. Maybe not as good as Iron Man, but it doesn't have to be. Like I said, I'm stuck in this relativity kind of paradox. I don't know if it's a paradox, it's just a function of the human mind or something. But I actually like Man of Steel just fine. But then the more other people didn't like it, I felt susceptible to some groupthink there, and I started liking it less. But even though I can see where people are coming from initially, it's like food that's junk food, bad for me. I still kind of like it, even though I know it's bad for me. Not that a movie is bad for you in the same way, but I think you kind of get the analogy I'm getting at there. So I thought, well, there's a couple of movies that I really like. There's a movie that's fine. When I initially saw BVS, yeah, maybe a little disappointed, but I didn't find it offensively bad. I know some people do find it offensively bad, and I respect that. But for me personally, I'm talking about my own initial reaction to the Snyder Cut. I don't know why it was so negative, even though I'm still a little pessimistic, a little cautious. I went from initially negative to it was going to be a real thing, and I thought maybe it is, maybe it isn't. And it's definitely a real thing. It's being released in a few days. Somewhere along that journey, I stopped being negative, tried to just detach myself from it at all, like it's no skin off my teeth or whatever you want to say. But then I genuinely grew curious. I wonder what it's going to be. I knew I was going to watch it. Maybe that was part of the negativity, is I knew I was going to have to watch it whether it was good or bad. But then I started getting curious, like, hey, I wonder what it will be like. And more reports coming out about the stuff that's going to be added and the things that are going to be shot. And I have to confess, my curiosity has grown to a genuine anticipation. Like, I think I'm looking forward to it now. I'm eager. And part of what's playing into that is, if we can go back to that food analogy, there's not a ton of stuff going on right now, at least in terms of theatrical quality feature films. We got some excellent television. But now I'm kind of looking forward to it on Thursday when I get home from work. If I get the chance, I'm going to go ahead and watch it right away. Now, despite getting eager, I will confess that I'm still worried about how long it's going to be. And I do think one of the valid complaints some people have had about Snyder's last few movies is that they are probably longer than you'd want. I say that for two reasons, really. One is narratively, artistically, when something goes on too long, it starts to maybe ramble, starts to maybe get boring. Not everything. I mean, there's really, really long stuff that's perfect from beginning to end, but just general, broad strokes I'm talking about here. So narratively, you can be a little worried that it's too long. It can do the movie-making equivalent of the kind of rambling I think I'm doing right now. But also there's practical concerns, like being able to get, if this is a 4-hour thing, I've got to have 4 hours to dedicate to it. And if I want to have like an honest opinion, I really want that immersion to be there. So I got to have 4 hours that I'm not going to be called to do something else. 4 hours that my day job's not going to come into play, which is kind of tricky for me sometimes the way my schedule works. And then I've got 3 kids, I've got other responsibilities around the house. Unexpected things can happen. And one sort of character flaw with me is if I get interrupted during the movie, that immersion is broken. It's really hard for me to get back into it. Sometimes I don't even try to finish. And I really like that contiguous, uninterrupted experience when I'm watching something. But also, if I've been part of the way through, it's really hard for me to start back from the beginning too. So I'm a little worried just from practical purposes that apply to me, but I'm sure they apply to some other people too. No man is an island. But there are some things I'm excited about that I want to point out. When it comes to the original Justice League, I wasn't super disappointed in it. I mean, it was not the Avengers, and I think we all wanted it to be the Avengers, but it wasn't. But I wasn't super disappointed in it. But I do think Steppenwolf wasn't the best sort of big villain. Steppenwolf is like a herald, you know, Darkseid, the big villain for Justice League. And I know they were building to something, and I guess there's part of me that wants that loose thread, that drop thread to be finished. When I was watching it, I was anticipating finally getting to Darkseid, so I'm really happy that Darkseid's going to be in here. Now, he's not 100% like the comic book image brought to the screen, but I also got to point out there's a lot of different comic book images of Darkseid. There's lots of interpretations. I mean, Jack Kirby didn't draw every incarnation of Darkseid in the comics, and Jack Kirby's version of Darkseid, though it's beautiful on the comic page and has all this historical value and some nice reference, it would work in a cartoon. It's not going to work on screen in live action. The initial images of Darkseid that I've seen, I kind of wish I hadn't. Like the live action Darkseid from the Snyder Cut, I kind of wish I hadn't. It'd be kind of a nice reveal. Maybe that's on me for not trying harder to avoid it, but for whatever reason, I've seen him, not stoked about it, but also I've learned in the past that sometimes when you see a still image from a movie, it doesn't always communicate it. And artistic interpretation is an individual thing. So what I might not like, other people might love. I want to go back to what I said before. Just because I don't like something doesn't mean it's not good, doesn't mean it doesn't have merit, and it doesn't mean I don't want other people to like it. I want somebody to say this is their favorite movie. I want somebody's life to be a little better because they watched this, or at least their day. You know, maybe I'm aiming too high to say life, but I'd like for somebody's day to be better because they got to see this movie. But like I said, Darkseid is an upgrade from Steppenwolf. I've heard early reports that Granny Goodness is going to be in the movie, and there's a part of my personality, like I just love these characters that are maybe odd from comics, things I never thought I would see in live action. I just like them to be on the screen, whether it's good or not. I just kind of enjoy the novelty of it. That was one of my favorite things about Smallville, is they brought in some Justice Society members. They brought in the Legion of Superheroes. Like, even though I really didn't enjoy the narrative of Smallville, I really like going and watching the clips where these characters I'd never seen in live action before, and that I never really thought I would ever see in live action, just show up. Like, we get a live action incarnation of Blue Beetle in Smallville. We get Booster Gold in Smallville. And like I said, the story didn't do much for me, but I still get a kick in the pants out of the novelty of seeing some of these folks on screen. But I was invested enough in the story of Justice League to want to know where it goes, even though the first one wasn't at the level a lot of people, myself included, wanted it to be at. I'm also the kind of person who understands a franchise can take some time to find its value. Two great reference points for me personally are Mission Impossible and The Fast and the Furious, a couple of series I watched all the way through in the past year, year and a half. Yeah, past year. And watched them all in order in pretty rapid succession. And like Mission Impossible was number 3 or number 4 before I really got into it and started thinking this is a cool franchise I want to see. Fast and Furious, it was really number 5 before I fully bought into it. You know, it's dumb fun, but it's fun. And fun is worth a lot. And then after I got into it with 5 or with 4 or whatever on the franchise, I could go back and watch those earlier ones and I enjoy them more. So I thought maybe Justice League had that potential building towards this New Gods story arc, this Fourth World story arc. Obviously, I did a long video a couple weeks ago, production video a couple weeks ago about the Fourth World, so I have some affection for that property. And because I like the Fourth World, and because, like I said before, I get a kick in the pants out of seeing these live action debuts, I'm looking forward to seeing Darkseid's live action debut, looking forward to seeing Granny Goodness. I think the story did have potential to go somewhere fun. I don't know if the Justice League was going to go 8, 9, however many entries Fast and Furious are, but I thought we'd get a trilogy out of it, and it would probably build to something. So what I'm curious about, and this has turned into eagerness and anticipation and why I'm looking forward to watching the Snyder Cut now, is I want to see if they follow that story arc out, particularly hearing that some time is going to be added to it. Is it going to feel like 2 movies? Is it going to be a complete story? Or is it going to feel like a totally different story, a new story? I don't know how much was changed in the initial plan from what we got in the theatrical release. I don't know how much has changed from the theatrical release to what HBO Max is going to give us, but I have an HBO subscription, so it's not going to cost me anything extra to watch it. So will it be different? Will it be new? Will it be the same thing with just some added scenes? Will it have a different ending? I'm pretty sure it'll have a different ending because you can't end the same way and then introduce Darkseid, but I could also be real wrong. But I'm kind of eager just to see how it's different. But I'm not going to rewatch the original Justice League in anticipation. There's only so much time in the day, you know? Also, I'm really curious, concerned, it's sort of an introspective exercise, but will I be able to identify an honest response in myself? Like, will I be able to sort through all the biases I'm bringing into it, all the prejudice, what other people have to say, all the groupthink? Will I be able to actually get down to my own response? And, like, am I gonna just want to be contrary to the public response if it's negative? Do I want to be the apologist, the defender? Or am I just going to fall into the groupthink, whatever direction that goes in? Am I going to be surprised? Is it going to be exactly what I expected? Like, sometimes I struggle to identify at the core my pure response. And then I also wonder if others will be able to also. Because I feel like, well, come on, this isn't anything that I'm coming up with. This isn't any brilliant insight. But a lot of people have their minds made up before they go into something. And changing their mind feels like a failure to them unless it's just earth-shatteringly, unexpectedly one way or the other. One thing I really don't expect it to be is mind-blowingly different than you expected. I really don't. But will I like it? Will I dislike it? Will I be bored? Will I be excited? Will I want to watch it more than once? I don't know. We got to find out. And also, will other people's opinions be genuine, or will they just be reinforcing what they predicted before they went into it? Because, you know, there's human nature. We like to do that. That's why I'm glad I'm not all the way human, maybe? Alien? But a lot of this comes back to the fact that at my core, I'm a DC fan first. And what I mean by that is going all the way back to my wee years of youth. Super Friends is what brought me into this superhero stuff. And I love Super Friends. It has an affection to me like a family member, almost. And what I mean is your family member can maybe make some really bad choices, go down a bad path. You have to practice some tough love and you distance yourself, but you still love that family member. And Super Friends, you know, for the longest time, I just didn't have access to rewatch it. I remember loving it so much for so many years, which as a kid, 5 years is like a third of your lifetime that you can remember. And then for a very long time, there was no way to get access to it. It wasn't easy to find. I mean, you could buy DVDs and stuff, but I didn't find a lot of those. Then eventually you could sort of find DVDs, and now you can stream it, or at least you could for a while on DC Universe. And going back and rewatching it, it's not that great. The story's not that great. You know, it's made for young children. It's not made like animation today is to sort of appeal to a broader age range. But I still love it. And it's painted me, my comic book fandom, my superhero fandom. It's colored me. So back to my point, rambling. Here I am, worried about Snyder rambling, and I'm rambling. At my core, I'm a DC fan first. Doesn't mean I enjoy DC more. What I mean is that's what I came to first. So I want some success. And they've been hit and miss. Thank goodness they've had some hits. And sometimes, once again, the hits, is it relative? Like Aquaman was a hit, but was it that great, or is it just good in comparison to other things? Is box office the only measurement of success? Of course not. But I enjoyed it more than my colleagues on Hero Movie Podcast did. So I want this to at least make some people happy. And one nice thing about the release model with this new cut of Justice League is that it can make fewer people happy and still be a success because the box office thing's kind of separated from it. I don't begrudge anyone having their happiness as long as it's not taking something from me. So even if the movie seems awful to me, if it makes other people happy, I'm happy for them. It takes, you know, no years off my life. So I'm looking forward to it. Going to try real hard to get an honest response. And then next week, I'll try to make another one of these Sunday rambling things where I give it my best honest review. And I'll roll in, you know, it'll be sort of two subjects. I'll also roll in what I think about the debut of Falcon and Winter Soldier. So maybe that'll be a little more interesting and a little more directed than just hear me ramble on without making a real decision about something that we can't see yet. So that's it. Talk to you next week.